Welcome to the Words to Empower podcast, featuring Bishop Frank Stewart, pastor of the Acts Ministry in Conway and North Little Rock, and now Pastor Stewart.
Who robbed you of that freedom? Who pushed you into a dimension of being like us when you were not ready to live in this dimension? You weren't ready to live there, but you listened to somebody. It was the devil. It was the devil. It was the devil talking to Eve, and of course she gave it to her husband, and immediately, because I want to make the connections. Reason why I'm doing this on this 4th of July, as we walk up to the 4th of July, is to be able to just address what we're seeing in our streets now, what is going on in our streets now. So he hasn't said, Adam, who told you that? Then again, immediately Adam says, the woman whom you gave me. Immediately there's this blame, there's this disgust. Adam says it was Eve's fault. She did this. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle. Everything is cursed because of you. Because of you. Because of you. So that don't seem like freedom there. Cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly shalt thou go, and thus shalt thou eat dust all the days of your life. So what I want you to see here, the freedom that they had, once they sinned, once Adam and Eve sinned, there's this slavery and the bondage that comes on to make sure they don't get out of it. They don't get out of it. See, the devil just don't want to put you there, put you in a place where there's not any truth. He wants to keep you there. He wants to keep you there. He'll use our pride and our arrogance and all the things that the enemy tries to plant in our heart. We will find out if it's really there or not. We'll find out if it's there or not, the stuff that he put in our hearts, the devil. So here, he began to blame the woman. The woman blamed the devil. And as we look at this and we walk through this, it says that in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, this is what God said. Unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and thou conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thou desire shall be to your husband. Your desire should be to your husband. So here, because of sin, there are some freedoms that mankind lost right off the bat. Now, won't that make you upset? I mean, right off the bat, right at the midst of deliverance, here he comes. Here he comes. The Bible says he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He'll do that. So the enemy comes to trap us with words. The words. He twists God's word. He'll twist our words because he don't want us to receive help from anybody. He don't want us to receive help from God for sure. He don't want us to get help from God. So I want you to just kind of focus on that a little bit. Think about that. Ruminate on that. The level of freedom that Adam lost. The level of freedom that was lost. I mean, we're talking about freedom economically. We're talking about freedom thinking, freedoms in their speaking. And I'm not just talking about the free speech. I'm talking about something on a whole nother dimension. And now Jesus comes and he gives us another dimension. He gives us something back. But you have to understand what was lost. What was lost in Eden. And even though Jesus is called the last Adam, and he went to a garden, that was Gethsemane. Adam and Eve was placed in a beautiful, wonderful garden, but Jesus went into the Garden of Gethsemane to pray until his sweat looked like large drops of blood, to pray in Gethsemane, to get ready to give his life as a ransom for many. So we see here in chapter 3 all the freedom that was lost. All this freedom and all kind of freedom. Economical freedom, agricultural freedom. You name it. You name it. They had this freedom, but they didn't use it the proper way. They didn't use it. And so we see slavery comes in the first book in the Bible. In chapter 3, slavery comes in because now we're dealing with bondage, the bondage of sin. And anybody, and that should be all of us, should understand how difficult and how heavy sin is. It's heavy, brothers and sisters. It's heavy. And because sin is heavy, when we do what we're supposed to do, we begin to see and experience a different dimension of freedom. So here we have freedom. We have freedom. We're walking with freedom. We're talking with freedom. And then it talks to us about a man named Enoch. Enoch walked with God and he was not. God took him. The freedom to leave this planet and go into another dimension. That freedom. They lost that. They lost it. I want to just talk to you about how much freedom was lost, how much freedom was taken away. And many people didn't even know it was taken away. They didn't even know it was gone. They didn't even recognize it was gone. The enemy had come and stolen their freedom, and he had left. So keep us in mind as we talk about this dimension of freedom that God has given unto us. Even when I say agricultural freedom, they had the freedom to plant. And when they planted stuff, the earth would give a yield. The earth would cause it to spring forth. And farming and other things that are going on right now has become more difficult.
Stay tuned for more of Frank Stewart. And now for some special announcements.
Thanks for partnering with the Acts Ministries. We value your service and your donations. That's why we've made it easy to make contributions to support our ministry. Simply go to your web browser and click the search bar and type in actsministriesonline.org. Then click Donate Online. It's really that easy. For mobile giving, text the amount you wish to donate to 501-302-4242. That's Simple Give.
And now, more of Pastor Frank Stewart.
Because of the lack of freedom. Freedom affects every area of your life. Every area of your life. Freedom affects that. It affects that. So it comes to the book of Exodus. Exodus. We start in the book of Exodus. We look at the children of Israel going into bondage, going into slavery. Yes, moving into bondage, moving into slavery. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. When you see that, everything that they had, all the freedom that they had, now it is manifested, and they're in slavery. They are enslaved in Egypt. My God. So that bondage thinking has enslaved them in their physical life. See, the first thing that the devil wants to do is enslave your mind. If he can enslave your mind, then he can enslave everything else. But he has to enslave your mind first. He doesn't want us to know that God has given unto us an incredible amount of freedom. So Satan works to enslave you first, and that's your mind. And we're going to talk about that because I want to show you something that the Israelites, they had a love affair with slavery, a love affair with bondage. They loved it. They loved bondage. They loved slavery. And I want to show you some scriptures here. To show you why I say that, because it didn't matter how many times God delivered them. some of them wanted to go back. Every time they had a problem, they wanted to head back into Egypt. Yep, I want to go back to Egypt land. I want to go back. I want to walk back in there and go back into the bondage that I came out of. So Jesus began to talk to them and begin to help them to understand as the last Adam when we move towards our text today. We're moving towards St. John chapter 8, but before we get there, we see that love affair that the children of Israel had with bondage. And they had it so that even when they came out of Egypt, I want to read this to you. And this was Exodus chapter 14, starting at verse number 10. It says that when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. And they said unto Moses, because there was no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in this wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? So let me just tackle that for a minute. Just look at that for a minute. As they begin to complain and begin to murmur to Moses, and they said, man, you brought us from a good land. On one occasion, the insult gets so furious that they say to Moses, you brought us out of the land that flowed with milk and honey. And they was talking about Egypt. They actually called Egypt the land that flowed with milk and honey. No, honey, it was Canaan. It was Canaan, wasn't Egypt. But they had a love affair with what God brought them out of. Yep. God brought them out of it, but they had a love affair with that level of bondage. Think about that. A love affair. It is like being in a relationship, an abusive relationship, and you wonder why there is this going back. You wonder why that is prominent and that is happening over and over again. So here's Israel. They was in Egypt. The Egyptian was killing their children. The Egyptian was whipping them, was whipped. Hard taskmasters, all that they was doing, but yet and still, they wanted to go back. So that's just one thing I read to you. What it said to Moses, were there not any graves in Egypt? That's Exodus 14 and 10. They wanted to know about that. There's no graves in Egypt, but you took us out here to the wilderness, and you brought us out here to die. You brought us in this wilderness to die with us and our children. You brought us out here so we would die. Now, first of all, you got to realize that God would never do anything like that. But this is how they're feeling. They're feeling now, I want to go back into what God brought me out of. I want to go back into bondage. That's what Israel wanted to do. They wanted to go back into bondage. They loved bondage. They loved it. They loved the thing that brought about slavery in their lives. They loved it. And sometimes, brothers and sisters, it's hard for us to see this. It's like, I can't believe anybody would do that. But just think about it. Put it on our level. Bring it down where we can look at it. We can taste it. Bring it all the way down to the lower shelf today. And what I'm saying to you is this. That sometimes we're doing things that create bondage in our lives, but we love to do it. We love that level of bondage more than we love our freedom. We love that bondage.
For mobile giving, text the amount you wish to donate to 501-302-4242.
The Acts Church in North Little Rock is located at 1224 Franklin Street. Morning Glory begins at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Sunday school begins at 8:30 a.m. And for a powerful word, Join us at 9:30 a.m. for our morning worship service. Bible study is each Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. For more information, go to actsministriesonline.org or give us a call at 501-329-2055.
Thank you for tuning in to the Acts Ministry Podcast. The Acts Church is located at 1423 England Street in Conway and 1224 Franklin Street in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Tune in each day to hear an inspiring word from Pastor Frank